Welcome back to Abios Grand Tournament. This is the third quarterfinal we have today. We have seven matches planned in general for the final day, because it's day 2 of the first Abios Grand Tournament. Before we jump into the game, before Firebat and Cipher will battle against each other, just a small announcement. The host of the tournament is abiosgaming.com, a go-to place when it comes to esports. There are gathering matches and schedules for 10 games, 10 esports games that are being, just covered by them. So you can check all those matches and results on their site. And the site has also Firefox and Chrome extensions for notifications, which is really cool. So be sure to check that out if you want to be on top of every single match being played in the esports world. And another important thing, if you want to be part of a giveaway action with Battle.net gift cards, you can type a giveaway, giveaway comment that gives you a link to the giveaway, or you can participate another way if you tweet something about the tournament with a hashtag AbiosGT, and then you have a chance to appear on the screen, but also you automatically go into the giveaway. And yeah, that's it when it comes to announcements. And Firebat and Cipher, we talked about it yesterday a lot, because Firebat is sporting an unusual lineup, right?
Indeed, he's brought Rogue, which is almost universally agreed to be the class that got the least help from TGT. All the rogue cards that came out were kind of trying to push this control, slow rogue sort of archetype that just doesn't really work. So rogue is kind of just left where it was, whereas the other classes have all improved with their new options. But also he's brought Shaman, and his Shaman is a heavily teched out Shaman that we can only assume is a planned counter to Handlock. He has double Big Game Hunter in there, along with the normal double Earthshock, double Hex as well. So Shaman considered one of the strongest matchups against Handlock anyway, because of the power of things like Earthshock and Hex. When you add double Big Game Hunter into that mix as well, you're suddenly looking at an incredibly powerful answer to what Handlock wants to do. And then in Cipher's lineup, Lothar, what do we see?
There is a Handlock.
Yes.
And this might be the weak spot, the weak link in the chain of Cipher's decks, which might be the downfall of his semi-final. Because as we know, this is Conquest, and what matters is your weakest deck, not your best deck, which will get you a win. It's about the weakest deck that might go like 0-3, 0-2 or whatever, and just not win the final game, and you will not prevail in the semi-final, and then will just be kicked out, because that's a single elimination tournament. As we talked before, Firebat is sporting a most likely anti-Handlock lineup. So it doesn't seem to be going well even before the game, before Cipher.
Yeah, it probably is, from Firebat's perspective, a complete anti-Handlock lineup. Opinions are very split on the Oil Rogue versus Handlock matchup. It's one of those things where like the Handlock players seem to think they're favored and the Rogue players seem to think they're favored. But I've had a very extended discussion with Firebat about that matchup, and he thinks Rogue is pretty heavily favored, and he just generally tries to build up the big dagger, just puts a weapon buff on his dagger whenever he draws it, and then tries to bypass the Molten Giants part of proceedings entirely, just by like building up like a 10+ damage dagger and then just swing at face and blade flurry at will. So yeah, he definitely thinks Rogue is favored in that matchup, so no surprise to see him include it in this lineup, which does seem to be heavily targeted at Handlock.
Definitely true. And now we see that Cipher is actually starting with the Handlock, and I think that's fine, because maybe Firebat wasn't really thinking that Cipher will start with his target, right? Yeah. So maybe he wouldn't exactly start with the Shaman, but unfortunately for Cipher, he did.
Yeah, I mean, battle of the mind games here, right? Firebat has definitely come out on top, and he's got the exact matchup he wants. Even though we've just said most of his or all of his decks have decent matchups against Handlock, this is definitely the one deck he's built to counter Handlock specifically, and this is the matchup he wants to get in every single round if he can. So he's done a great job here queuing into the first matchup, and he does have the nice Haunted Creeper to start out, and more importantly, the Big Game Hunter. So
yeah, I mean, the Handlock, now the new iterations of Handlock can still play different threats than Giants and Twilight Drakes, which namely are just Void Callers and Doom Guards. But still, having that big game hunter ready in hand gives you a lot.
Yeah, but because of the extra removal that you have packed in this deck, you can almost afford to use something like an Earthshock or a Hex to deal with a Void Caller if you really want to, or just, punch into it and use a Hex on a Doom Guard or something, because you have that extra insurance of having the big game hunters against the Mal'Ganis and the Mountain Giants and things like that. So because of the extra removal, you do kind of have that spare removal to use on a Void Caller if it comes down to that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And now, the Tusker Totemic is one of the most swingy cards in Shaman. It's also important to play it on your left side, because you can spawn a, let's say, Flame Tongue Totem for your right side minions.
Yep.
And for your totems that will be spawning after that.
Yeah, Firebat correctly positions the Tuskar Totemic so that if it was the Flame Tongue Totem, the Flame Tongue Totem would have spawned in the direct center of his board. So small thing there from him, but nice use of positioning to maximize his options. So now he does have the decision about whether he wants to Earthshock this Void Caller or not.
Would you?
Generally, you do want to preserve the Earthshock for the Twilight Drake, and I think I would continue to reserve it just for now, because the Void Caller doesn't have much of an impact on this board right now anyway. It just has to run into a Taunt Totem, and there's nothing on the board.
Ooh, that's a really great draw, and I don't blame now clearing the board, because if there would be a single Shadow Flame, you would lose that Mana Tide Totem, and I think that has a lot of value in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Still susceptible to something like a Dart Bomb, or less so to an Owl, but still that sort of thing. But yeah, Shadow Flame would have been pretty devastating there, so I don't mind the clean trade. But now the Twilight Drake is going to come down and start threatening to get a lot of value on this board after we've seen the Earthshock disappear.
True. Second Mana Tide Totem. Well, I think you played it, right?
How do you feel about drawing 2 cards every turn? That seems pretty legit, right?
Yeah, definitely legit, because you didn't see a Shadow Flame, and I would assume that Cipher would play the Hellfire anyway. Because you kill a Taskmaster, you kill a Mana Tide Totem, which is really important, and you also clear a Totem and just, trigger the Death Rattle from Hunted Keeper. So definitely no AoE, but he goes for Azure Drake just to be on curve.
I don't mind this either. You do draw the same 1 extra card this turn that the Mana Tide would have done, and you're replacing a potential 0/3 body with a 4/4 body, which is just a lot more competitive against this Drake, and also puts a lot more pressure onto Cypher's life total.
Yeah.
So the card draw has worked out exactly the same as it would have done, and he still has the option to now follow up with a Mana Tide later if he wants to.
At the same time, if you would like to play the Mana Tide Totem, you would have to follow it up with a Totem Golem, which basically denies you the Fire Elemental on turn 6.
That's very true as well, yeah. Double Fire Elemental, but probably going to have to commit to a big game hunter this turn.
Yes, I think so. And you probably just want to go face in this situation, because why would you trade 3 cards into a Twilight Dragon, right?
Yeah. I definitely don't think the 3-for-1 trade here is happening.
And what about the Rockbiter weapon? Help with the trade.
So that lets you retain your 3/2 on the board. You'd have to Rockbiter the Drake and trade with that and the Haunted Creeper. So I still don't like it. Wow, is he gonna? I guess with the way this deck is built, he feels like he can just starve the Handlock deck out of value entirely.
Would you then just play second Mana Tide Totem instead of Hero Powering?
Maybe he just feels that's too much of a commitment to any AoE, especially since he's breaking the spiders this turn. And then this way, if there is AoE coming, he can just refill next turn with Piloted Shredder and Mana Tide Totem.
Yeah. That's a very good choice. With the Piloted Shredder and Mana Tide Totem, yeah, that's definitely right. Oh, look at that.
There is a Hellfire. So Cipher is going to make the decision here between whether he wants to try and develop his board again with something like the Mountain Giant, or whether this board needs to be dealt with. In this situation, it's kind of easy to feel like, okay, well, the Mana Tide's kind of done its damage at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Do I need to deny more cards? He already has all the options in the world, but I still think this board kind of has to be dealt with, and it looks like it's going to be tap Hellfire. Yeah, all right.
You can really play. You can really commit a big minion to the board, because a single Flame Tongue Totem just denies you that minion.
And there comes the second big game hunter. And surprise, Cipher, you just dealt with 1 Mana Tide Totem, and now here comes another one. So just in case you felt like I didn't have all the options in my deck in my hand right now I really do.
I mean, we all know how this matchup should work, and it actually goes that way.
Yeah, Firebat's tech choices are just working out so well for him. He got the value out of his Earthshock, even though it didn't hit the optimal target of a Twilight Drake. He still got really nice value out of it. The Manatide Totem has just helped him to draw all the options he's needed. He's been able to Big Game Hunter one Giant already, and now we see a backup Big Game Hunter and a Hex ready to go. So,
and the Doomhammer with Rockbiter weapon is just such a big threat.
Yep. In fact, he's very, very close to just having lethal next turn. In fact, with the tap, he's now one off lethal.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't see any crackles in this deck.
We haven't, no. And of course, something does have to be removed to make room for all this stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what from the normal mid-range Shaman he isn't carrying. Things like Feral Spirits definitely don't seem like they're in this deck. I don't think we've seen Lightning Storm be drawn yet in any of his games, have we? Did we see Lightning Storm yesterday?
No, we didn't. Probably that's the card you want to cut, because usually you deal with the big minions, so they're like on the 1 or 2 targets on the board.
Right.
So there's no big focus on a huge board from the opponent. Usually you lose to those type of decks anyway, like Zoo, like Hunter, right?
Yeah. And I think you can afford to push all in here, right? You have another Hex, and you just are threatening lethal with the Doomhammer Rockbiter. Although, I mean, you threaten lethal with this hand anyway with the Doomhammer Rockbiter, so do you need the additional damage? I think he's going to say yes. Yeah, he's just going to push all in here. He has the Hex to back it up if one Molten Giant comes down. And with things like Fire Elemental to take care of, a possible turn this turn is something like Molten Giant, Healbot, and a Taunt. So next turn he'll have the Fire Elemental to take out the Taunted Healbot. He'll have the Hex to deal with the Molten Giant, and then he'll have the Rockbiter to push through lethal. So
exactly. Easy peasy, right?
Yep. We do see the Molten Giant get drawn, but there are no Taunt Givers in Cipher's hand, so he doesn't have any way to protect himself right now. Molten Giant Healbot is about the best he's got, unless he wants to tap.
And a Dark Bomb to the Paleo Shredder for a Doomsayer, right?
Yeah, but if you're developing your board, you're probably just going to take down the Big Game Hunter and just hope that he doesn't have it. But unfortunately, Fire Ellie and Rockbiter is just going to seal this game. And there is a Lightning Storm, so never mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, more importantly, Rockbiter for 10 damage to face. Pilot Shredder going to swing in for 4 as well, and Fire Elemental going to come down and seal the deals. Firebat goes out to a 1-0 lead in game 1.
That's the matchup we actually predicted will be going that way. So there's no big problem for Cipher. He knew he will lose this most of the time. I would say it's like an 80-20 for Firebat in this situation, and this is just like it's starting like Firebat wanted to, but the problem. I mean, he hopes that his strategy will be just going forward. So he wants to queue up again into the handlock with whatever decks he will be playing, and just focus on punishing that handlock deck.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Cipher chooses to proceed through this.
Oh, he's keeping the handlock. That's interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel about this strategy? Because I understand the mentality that at some point he has to get a win with this handlock. So maybe just try and get that out of the way first, and then try and hope that if he does get the handlock win, the rest of Firebat's strategy falls apart.
I mean, I would do the same with opening with the handlock, but if I lose, I would definitely switch out the handlock because of the nature of the Firebat's strategy. I would like to get as much information as I can. So if I go with different decks before queuing up again the handlock, I can win against those other decks that are focusing on winning against my handlock and get more information about the tech cards. Like, let's say maybe the Druid is sporting additional Big Game Hunter, right? Or is sporting additional silences or something else that can just help me make decisions when I will be playing my handlock for the final win.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But from Firebat's perspective here, he has kind of the slightly awkward Druid hand. You're never sad about this against handlock because you have the answers to whichever turn 4 threat comes down, since you have the Silence and the Big Game Hunter. But you haven't ramped. So, the Silence on the Twilight Drake is just a 1-for-1 trade, and you don't really have any proactive threats of your own to play out yet until that lower Theb on turn 5. So yeah, how do you feel about this sort of hand versus handlock?
It's not bad. I think you can just grind it out. You don't necessarily want to be super fast.
Okay.
If you have like double Saboteur in your hand, then you might change that might change the pace of the game. But in this situation, I think it's kind of okay. Of course, it's bad to not have a mana acceleration at all with Druid, but it's not the end of the world, especially in this matchup when you're attacking out against a handlock.
Yeah, it's worth noting here that Cipher does have kind of the dream against Druid, which is the Void Caller into the 315 Jiraxxus being summoned onto the board. We talked about, some matchups, it's just so important to be able to play Jiraxxus as the hero form value, because, you're in no danger of being burst down, so Jiraxxus can just seal the game over time. Against Druid, that's not the case, because 15 health is just not that safe against Druid. So you would actually much, much rather have the 315 value on the board, and that's exactly what he's going to be able to get out of this Void Caller at some point. Now one of the silences is gone.
Yeah, we talked about it like over and over again, that the Druid has a problem with dealing with high health minions if they don't have 7 attack or more. Because then they can use the single removal they usually do have in their decks, which is the Big Game Hunter, because no one uses Mulch or Naturalize. So, yeah.
This is interesting. Is Firebat looking to pop... Okay. I was just wondering whether he was looking to pop the Void Caller first, just in case a Mal'Ganis came out, and then that would be a much more important target to Big Game Hunter. But it looked like he just wanted to cycle a card there just to try and get some more proactive threats into his hand.
Do you think that's the turn when you play Jiraxxus?
It looks reasonable, right? You can just trade into the Big Game Hunter, get your 315 on board, and put an Emperor down alongside.
Yes, that looks like the best
Pretty
option.
legit.
Yep. So next thing you can forward up, like most likely Druid will trade with the Emperor.
Yep.
And then you can just fill the board with the enormous taunt.
Yeah, I like it. Speaking of enormous taunt, Firebat does have one of his own to come down here. It is going to be made to feel slightly bad by its superior taunt on the other side of the board, but still, a 5/10 is nothing to be sniffed at here. So get your 5/10 down on the board and trading the Emperor here, and you're not feeling too bad. But this Jiraxxus is quite possibly about to become a 4/16. Oh, well,
look at that.
That is a fantastic draw to go along with that Dart Bomb that he already has.
Definitely. And should you taunt up the Owl? I think you do, because you don't want to lose that Owl to a single swipe.
Just gets caught in a swipe, just gets taken out with the hero power. So yeah, I think buffing that up with the Argus seems reasonable.
You won't be caught by the hero power if the Jiraxxus will be taunted up. But I'll definitely agree that taunting up the Owl should be an option with the defensive Argus.
Well, now that he's tapped, he can't do that, right? Because he's kind of obligated to Dart Bomb this turn unless he doesn't want to remove the minion.
He doesn't want to?
Oh, wow. He's actually just not going to Owlet this turn. This is a really interesting play.
Why don't you Owl that? What are you fearing?
I don't really know.
Sylvanas,
maybe. Yeah, could have a pretty serious issue on this board. And I guess maybe this is right. I mean, how scared are you of just one 5-attack minion on the board that has to plow through all this stuff? I don't know. He is gonna end up losing his Jiraxxus for it, though.
Yeah, that's the issue. Like, I was thinking Jiraxxus is kinda winning you the game here.
Yeah.
And if you lose that, then you might actually lose the game entirely, because you lose the ability to soak up so much damage into the Jiraxxus from the minions. From the future minions, which will be trading every single time.
In fact, he doesn't lose his Jiraxxus, and the play he made is actually going to pay off pretty big here, because he has a potential Shadow Flame plus Dart Bomb on the Ancient Watcher here, to just pick up the 2 minions on board, push through a bunch of tempo. That's even better.
Oh, that's better. I just wanted to say that tap first for the Mortal Coil.
Yeah. Absolutely. He has 2 mana to spare. Nothing really to do with it. Seems unlikely he'll play a Big Game Hunter for tempo. It doesn't seem too necessary. The 4/10 is about all the tempo you need right now. But, what looked like a pretty appealing play before with the Shadow Flame and Dart Bomb has suddenly got absolutely ridiculous. So I would be amazed if we see anything else except that play happen. But at the same time, Cipher went down a very different line from us last turn. So he might have a very different perspective on how this game is going to play out.
But I have no idea what is your plan if you're not Shadow Flaming this turn. Okay, never mind.
Whoa! Double Dark Bomb on the Emperor instead.
I don't understand that.
I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he preserves both taunts this way. That's the only upside I can see. But he has another taunt giver and he has a heal bot in his hand. So and they're cheap. So it's not like they're even, really slow plays. So his long-term sustainability against Druid is really strong right now. What he doesn't have is more proactive threats to play. So I think maintaining that 410 on the board is like priority number 1 right now, because that's the thing that's going to win the game for you.
Yes, agree completely here. And you give your opponent time to develop his board.
Yeah. So really strange line of play there from Cipher. Not quite sure what the deal is there. He does pick up something a little proactive, but without a demon in his hand to summon from it, it's just not looking that competitive on this board at all. So all of a sudden, well, all right. Okay, I was about to say all of a sudden this game is looking kind of miserable for him, but yeah, the extra Doom Guard coming into hand there certainly makes a big difference. And you've already seen a lot of removal be used from your opponents.
It's basically an additional Twilight Drake. Not a taunted up, but a Defender of Argus buffed Twilight Drake in this situation.
I like the positioning here from Cipher. A lot of people make the mistake in this situation where they'll just put the Sun Fury in the middle anyway. But the important thing here is just have the Sun Fury off on its own, just in case you want to be able to taunt that up later with an additional minion and not have it in the middle of 2 other taunts.
True. So Firebat is missing those crucial Savage Roars to go through those taunts and just deal lethal damage.
Yep.
And he doesn't have any kind of draws. Those double innovates now are really holding him down. They're like an anchors when it comes to their hand.
We're definitely gonna see him use 1 here, probably just to innovate out the 4/6 bear.
It's kind of sad against a Shadow Flame, right? But you saw 2 Dark Bombs and no Hellfires.
Yeah.
But you can guess your opponent doesn't have a Hellfire in his hand. But he did get 3 new cards.
Yeah. And I think, from our perspective, we thought Shadow Flame was pretty damn good for 2 turns. So you can imagine Firebat was thinking the same thing. So he might just have the read that Shadow Flame is not in Cipher's range right now, and that's not a thing that's in his hand. But
yeah.
So I think the turn definitely starts with the Mortal Coil here, right?
Does it? You can also taunt up the Void Color attack into the Druid of the Claw, the fresh one, and then you can Shadow Flame.
Would you owl the
I don't think you should
Shredder in
owl
that situation?
If you keep that owl for so long, you most likely want to keep that for Sylvanas, right?
Okay.
And you have an almost guaranteed clear with the Sunfield Protector from the drop. Okay,
I like this play a lot. Because he's going to just get his Doom Guard into play right now. Safe from combo, 5/7 on board. Yeah, I like this. Yeah,
okay.
Sure. It just retains the full value of his taunt to still taunt 2 minions later on if he needs them. So yeah, I actually like that line of play a lot. But I think specifically the Owl was being reserved while he had the Jiraxxus on the board, because Sylvanas was so terrifying in that situation. I think with the Jiraxxus gone, the Sylvanas is slightly less scary. Although saying that, he does now have the Doom Guard on the board, which is kind of equally bad against Sylvanas. So yeah, maybe that isn't true.
Getting a Doom Guard killing you back for 5 with Savage Roar, that would be just hilarious, actually. Never saw that yet.
So feels safe to tap here. If he doesn't taunt this turn, he is dead to the second Savage Roar top deck. And I know Cipher is a player. Oh, is he going to try and snipe the house?
Second Hardball.
Yeah. All right, nice.
It worked out, but the second Savage Roar is still lethal. And nope. Well, just slam that on board and pray that you don't die next turn.
Pretty much.
Because on 1 Owl was being played, no one plays Saffron Souls anyway. Right now, only 1 player was playing Black Knight yesterday, and he's not in the tournament.
Yeah, although maybe if Firebat's teching really hard against Handlock, right? Maybe Black Knight is a card that's in his range.
No, I mean, Cipher probably doesn't have like Black Knight in this situation.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, maybe there is one other player in the tournament. Maybe Firebat, somewhere along the line, has decided to sneak a Black Knight into this deck, but it seems unlikely. So do we have any lethal options here? No way we can get the Mortal Coil to clear out. You can only do 8 to it with the Defender of Argus with 1 minion. So no way to bank a minion into your opponent's face here and pick up lethal. So I think just securing yourself as best you can this turn has to be the play, right? Just wow, he's gonna go ahead and tap, which all right, that's fine.
Well, that's lethal right now.
With the Hellfire, yes, it is.
It's a good tap there.
Yep.
Trap.
Seems legit, but I feel like just playing Healbot and Defender of Argus that turn would just
would have been sufficient.
Yeah, it would have won the game almost 100% of the time. The tap there picked up the Hellfire, so interesting to see what his play would have been otherwise, whether it would have been the Argus or the Healbot. So.
But he's picking up. That's a really important win, I would say. He sealed his handlock deck.
Right.
And as we know, that was the plan for Firebat to actually, well, as we know, we kind of think that was the plan all along, to target the, oh, what? Look at that. That is actually a Black Knight. that caught me off guard, really.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just finish the initial thought. Actually, now I'm certain that Firebat was targeting handlock.
No, this is in Cipher's Druid.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Black Knight is in Cipher's Druid.
Okay, never mind. Never mind then. Yep. Then it's really weird.
Yep.
Okay, back to my thought. We're still not sure. We're just kind of predicting that Firebat was targeting the handlock. And when that's out of the way, kind of puts some pressure on Firebat, but still those decks can prevail. Mm-hmm. Rogue was always known for kind of be a good matchup against Druid, even without taunts, because you have all those means to clear the minions and get a tempo advantage by playing cards like Sub and Backstab. So this is not entirely a bad matchup for him, but it's kind of discouraging if he was targeting the handlock deck.
For sure. And just like, was Cipher the player that we saw yesterday with the Black Knight, or was it someone different? Can you remember specifically who it was?
I think that was someone different.
You think it was someone different? Okay, I'm not entirely sure, but I like him going with the Wild Growth there over the Darnassus Aspirant when he had the option of both, because Aspirant pretty fragile against a rogue. You know, something as simple as Backstab, Deadly Poison, or any of the above. You know, it just would have denied him playing the Shredder on turn 3. So the consistent option with the Wild Growth, just make sure he gets a Shredder down this turn and then can develop from there.
Ooh, that's pretty damn sweet for the agent.
Yeah.
Pick up a kill here, maximum value. Has to be really cool.
This is the way you have to play this matchup as the rogue player as well. You need to keep your eye out for these turns where you can simultaneously clear a board and develop your own minions, because that's what Druid hates to deal with. They hate those tempo swing turns where suddenly their board disappears and your board appears. They're fine with just minion combat where you both just have a board. That's fine. Druid can do that as good as any deck, but when the board,
or even better, because of fades.
Exactly. When the board swings entirely, that's the situation where they start to struggle. So Firebat knows this as well as anyone, and he's gonna look for those turns as much as he possibly can.
I like the use of the weapon here instead of the agent, because first of all, you're not weak to swipe next turn.
Yeah.
And you don't have the Blade Flurry already in hand, so you can maybe you can assume that you will get the buffs for the weapons in the next draws, if you will get the Blade Flurry anyway.
That is a beautiful pickup. Sap Earthen Ring Farseer looks pretty goddamn perfect here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then you can next turn just spam more spells, even play the Pirate just to make the Sylvanas less valuable.
Yep. And what he's doing here is basically sap Sylvanas, and then at this point, because his board has developed so much, it's developed an extra 1/1 and a 3/3. Sylvanas is now just kind of too slow because the rogue's threatening to push 10 more next turn, plus the damage from their hand. You can trade some of it down with the Shade, but still, it's just a ton of pressure. And against a bursty deck like Rogue, cards like Sylvanas just become too slow at this point. So, I would favor this turn. I think it's time to reveal the Shade here.
Yes, I think so.
And
but
just
follow it up, Druid Claw and
Druid
Hero
of the
Power.
Claw, yeah, Druid of the Claw, Hero Power, take down the Violet Teacher. Wow, all right, he's just gonna. So after my little tirade about how Sylvanas was going to be too slow, Cipher disagrees with me. He's just going to go ahead and play it. And a Gnomish Inventor. Very interesting.
Yeah, interesting text. And also, a thing worthy of noting for the newer players is the fact that Sap basically is like a skip your opponent's turn card in the Druid matchup. Because basically your opponent spends a whole turn developing a single minion and you deny that value. So you use 2 mana and a card to virtually gain a whole turn.
Yep.
And it gets more valuable as the game progresses.
Yep. And it looks like Firebat is just pushing all in this turn. We might see the Eviscerate. Yeah, the Eviscerate on the Sylvanas here looks really nice because he has a 4 out of 6 chance of taking a really, really low value minion. He's going to choose not to attack. It looks like the Farseer got taken because it lost the green border.
Yes, it lost the green border, yeah.
So that's the reason he chose not to attack with the Violet Teacher beforehand, because now he can just pick up the nice trade here if he wants to. So nice sequencing from Firebat there.
Now, this turn, you most likely just want to play Ancient of Law. You need that swipe. Without the swipe, you're not making a comeback.
Absolutely. From Cipher's perspective, we certainly see that like digging for swipe looks like his win condition here, but Lower Theb can come down the following turn from Firebat and put an end to any of that nonsense. So, but you know, Cipher doesn't know that. He knows that looking at this board right now, swipe looks pretty appealing, so he's just going to dig a bit deeper in his deck, and there we go.
There it is. So if he picks up also a Azure Drake for next turn, oh no, never mind, there's Lotheb, and
So Lotheb will allow just a 9 mana swipe if he wants to make that play, but it's not quite going to be enough to deal with the board here. I mean, how do you feel about actually even still trading when you have the Lotheb in play? Because if you play Lotheb and go face, the 9 mana swipe is actually still a complete board clear.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Let's see if Firebat is the player that goes like, you know, to this with the safe play. I wouldn't count on that.
No, yeah. If we know anything about Firebat, he loves being this guy right here. The guy that says, well, you go ahead, you have it. I'm going to make you have it.
And I like that style.
Yeah.
We'll get slightly punished by that, but wow, the sabotage attack actually will be also amazing next turn, because you have a Gnomish Inventor into sabotage to deal one of the minions, and usually maybe the Druid player will just, you know, pick up an Ancient of War, and that's a great target for sabotage. I mean, not this turn, but like in the following turns.
Is Cipher possibly counting 2-turn lethals here? He can't be, because he has to address the board, or else he's just dead next turn. So yeah, 9 mana swipe is the play. So Firebat does get punished slightly for his play, but you know, he gets rewarded by banking a crap load of damage on the opponent's face, and he's just going to go ahead and sprint here and hope that picks him up enough resources to finish out the game.
He used one Eviscerate.
Yep. He used one Eviscerate, but we haven't seen a Tinkers be played yet, so the double Blade Flurry is looking pretty appealing. It's probably one more Blade Flurry than he would have liked, but yeah. Things like Azure Drake probably would have been his best draw there, just to you know, maintain a bit of pressure on the board, or if he picked up some combination that was exactly lethal, that obviously would have been effective as well if he was able to get lethal this turn coming up. But the cards he drew don't have too much of an impact on this game right now without some sort of weapon buff.
It's true. Now, in this situation, Firebat is kind of pushed to use the clears here, but at the same time, you want to develop the board. So let's see if there's a way to, an example, just kill the Druid of the Claw and leave the Pulse Shredder up and still play a minion, preferably the agent, right? So if you use Backstab on the Druid of the Claw, then the agent. Nah, that's the 4 damage lacking one.
Looks like he's going to start with the backstab Fan of Knives. Something like an Eviscerate would be a really nice pickup here, or a Deadly Poison would also be a board clear. But
well, he used one, so that's the problem.
Yeah. But the Farseer isn't bad either. Lets him develop double minions here, take care of the Pilot Destroyer quite nicely, and this board now maintains the status quo ever so slightly.
And Cipher has a really good hand if he just picks a single Innovate.
He does, yeah.
So how do you feel about just playing an Engine of Law to heal yourself, kill one of the minions, and probably you don't want to play the Shade at all? Because you are weak to a big Blade Flurry turn that, in the upcoming turn for Firebat.
Yeah. You've seen one Deadly Poison. I think if your opponent had a reasonable Blade Flurry turn, like Deadly Poison was a really good draw off the Fan of Knives for him there, because Deadly Poison Blade Flurry would have been a nice board clear and pushed a bit of extra damage to the opponent's face. So I think you're not that scared of Blade Flurry happening. Okay. But he's just going to go for the extra security of the heal, develop the Shade on the board, and I don't mind this play too much either. Although its Sabotage will end up getting a decent amount of value either way here. Start off with the prep sprint by the looks of things, and then he always has Sabotage to fall back on if he feels he really needs to remove one of these minions.
There's the second Eviscerate and a Deadly Poison for the Blade Flurry. Well, you can clear with the Blade Flurry Deadly Poison, but it's not really appealing because you lose your only minion on board.
Yeah.
But then, next turn, you can fold up with an Azure Drake to kill a second Engine of Law. Anyway, the two Engine of Laws were already played, so that makes no sense. What do you think about just...
He's going to Sabotage first here, wow.
That's weird. If you hit Druid Claw... Oh.
She does. I mean, this lets him get 3 more damage to face if that's what he's valuing, but
okay,
that seems ambitious. All right, he's going to go for it. I mean, this does set up lethal for next turn and force his opponent to trade. And as we never mind.
Well, that's game.
That is game right there. And again, this was a recurring theme yesterday. We were talking about some sort of strategic element of the game, and then top deck combo just comes along and makes it all irrelevant. And yet again, Druid does Druid things. Innovate, double combo, enormous amounts of damage.
That's 9, 16, and 24, 30, 36, 40 damage.
40 damage. That is almost Patron Warrior levels of damage, Lothar.
Yeah, but you had 2 big minions on board.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. But yeah, Cipher is picking up a second win. Interestingly enough, because we all thought that Firebat will have a huge advantage in this match, and it's not going his way at all. And now he's left with a kind of unfavorable matchup. I would say Firebat is not really well, he plays Sabotage. Okay, never mind me. That might be a good matchup for Firebat, actually, to be honest. Unless he will be killed by a Frauding Berserker combo and not Patrons. Because he has the means to clear the board from Patrons, and it was actually thought that Rogue is a good counter to Patron Warriors some time ago. But then, like, I don't know, people tend to switch that way of thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Patron is favored in this matchup, but we also saw Harrison Jones in Firebat's deck, so he does have 2 weapon destructions. So if he can get those to line up against both Death Spites, that will be a huge advantage for him. Because as we've mentioned several times already, like Death Spite really is the linchpin that holds this entire deck together. So if he's able to line up both of those and just take the Death Spite Whirlwinds out of the equation entirely, then yeah, that could put him in a pretty good position. Definitely a strong build of Rogue to be going into this matchup with, even though generally Rogue is slightly unfavored.
True.
They're just going to favor developing the 3/3 minion here. No value from the Battle Cry, but getting the 3/3 on the board, demanding the weapon from your opponent. We see that Cipher does play Shield Slam in his deck, so this is more likely the Shield Block version as opposed to the more Tempo-E version that we've seen RDU play, and we've seen 6-0 achieving rank 1 on various servers with things like Dread Corsair. If you're playing Shield Slam, you're certainly playing copies of Shield Block in your deck.
And that also means you most likely are playing only one Fury War Axe.
Yes.
And this is one of the cards that would have a lot of value in this matchup because it clears all those agents and Farseers.
Yep, Rogue infamously has a lot of 3/3 minions in their deck, so Fiery War Axe does get a lot of work done. One of the reasons why it feels pretty safe to cut a War Axe from Patron Warrior at the moment is that there is basically no Rogue about. So, one of those matchups where Fiery War Axe is really strong just isn't a factor. But yes, he would love to have the second Fiery War Axe in his deck for this matchup. And both players really not finding much to do in the early turns.
Well,
Firebat probably just going to go ahead and cycle another Fan of Knives. Picks up a Tinkers.
He's looking for those minions that he wants just to, just place on the board. There's preferably just one minion on the board, which has more than 2 attack.
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not a card like a No Mission Inventor, which he actually plays in the Rogue.
Yeah, the No Mission Inventor is a really interesting addition to this deck, but again, just more burst, more removal, more situational cards coming into the hand here from Firebat. So this looks like a 6-mana hit face, re-equip dagger pass turn, which is not really what we want to be seeing. And it almost looks like, 2 really heavy control fatigue decks are playing against each other here because no one wants to develop anything. Acolyte of Pain, it really looks like the first minion that might be played out here, but he doesn't even have any way to get too much immediate value off it. It says he wants to slam it himself, which will cause him to overdraw. So
yeah, I just wanted to point it out that you can't really do the usual thing, which is slamming the Acolyte of Pain when the game doesn't develop as much as you would like to. And you don't have the Emperor. But imagine if there will be an Emperor draw. 3, 6, 9, 10 cards. Do you want to even play the Acolyte of Pain? Because you would have to use the coin just to...
I think you have to coin nothing, yeah. Or at the very least play the Unstable Ghoul alongside it, but that's dangerous because you're just giving way... Whoa, he is...
Whoa! Is he doing that?
Okay.
Wait, what? 3, 6, 9...
No, he goes to 10 right now, that's fine.
So he has to coin out a Fury War Axe, but that was really fortunate for him that he got it.
Right. But he still... I guess he still had, two Armor Smiths in his deck. He could hit, and in worst case scenario, even if he got Taskmaster, you can coin Taskmaster, because then you lose 2 cards and you draw 1 more, so you still wouldn't be in the overdraw situation. I don't
think he plays Taskmasters when he plays Shield Slams, Shield Blocks.
That's a good point, yeah. But I guess even the Unstable Ghoul would have been acceptable to play, because again, you're coining out 2 cards, and then the Acolyte of Pain at most only draws 1 more, so that would still avoid overdraw. So there was always a safety fallback option. But yeah, the Fiery War Axe was a nice option to pick up. So equips the Tinker's Oil. I wouldn't be surprised to see him just hold on to this entirely. I think he's safe in the knowledge that Cipher hasn't been playing Weapon Destruction if he's seen his lists from yesterday. And there we go. He just holds on to the big dagger here.
So the Fury War Axe will do what it's meant to be, so we'll clear the 3/3 from the board. But I think the plan here for Cipher is just to wait for Emperor.
Yeah, absolutely. If he shield blocks this turn, he's more than likely going to have to... Okay, he drew the Armor Smith, but before he saw the draw, it looked like the play would just be to equip Raw Deathspite with double charge. Wow, he's going to slam, okay.
Well, he's really looking for
looking for the Emperor, yeah. He can still play out the Armor Smith here to avoid the overdraws. This is totally fine. But yeah, without the Armor Smith being drawn, it looked like he would have had to have just played the 4-mana Deathspite and kept both charges, and then Sabotage would have come down as a really heavy punish. So, good job he managed to avoid that by drawing the Armor Smith. But as we said last turn, there are still a lot of cards left in his deck that are playable for low mana cost. So
the problem for Firebat is that he can buff his weapon to enormous numbers, but that's still not enough to deal with the warrior itself. It's only a means to deal with, let's say, a patron board or just with whatever board your opponent plays. But in this situation, it's just it's just used to not overdraw anything.
Right.
3, 6, 9 cards. So the sap makes him overdraw.
Yeah, I would love to see the Sap here. Sap's just not a good card against Patron Warrior in general, so the best use of it may just be to get him to burn a card. You've seen from the way he's been playing that he's digging really, really hard for one specific card, which is...
Imagine if the next draw is Emperor.
Exactly, yeah. That one specific card that he's looking for is probably, you know, a Warsong Commander or Emperor Thaurissan. So if you're able to burn either of those cards using the Sap, that's probably the best thing you're ever going to do with Sap this game. So we do see, though, he now has the Harrison and the Sabotage in his hand, so Deathspite will never be relevant in this matchup. He's able to destroy both of them now, which is fantastic for him.
We actually didn't see the card being drawn by Cipher, right? Or did we?
I'm not sure, but regardless, he just equipped the Deathspite and went face, and Firebat is able to deny it with the Harrison Jones, develops a Shredder alongside it, and suddenly he has a nice amount of pressure on this board, and he's actually threatening to race the Patron Warrior here and not give him all the time in the world. So it looks like we just had a little bit of a spectator issue with Cypher's side, but if he drew Emperor this turn, we will almost certainly see Emperor being slammed on the board here.
Slam on the board.
We can assume that Emperor was not the draw.
Unless he got lags, but yeah. In this situation, you have to deal. I mean, do you have to deal with the minions? Most likely, you can also just play Deathspite and go to the face.
Yeah.
You just saw one Harrison Jones, so maybe there's a chance there will be no Sabotage.
Right. I mean, if I remember his hand rightly, he has both Frothings, he has a Warsong Commander, and he has an additional Whirlwind. So going into 10 mana on the following turn, he does have enough damage to kill his opponent. So yes, equipping the second Deathspite and swinging at fate. Wait, what's happened to the second? Didn't he have a second Deathspite in his hand at one point?
Yeah, he did. I'm sure.
Oh, I guess that was just the spectator bug, right? So he'd already
okay.
the War Axe, but we still saw him as having a Deathspite in his hand. So he, in fact, does not have the second Deathspite in his hand. Okay.
Well, that's pretty desperate to play those patrons just to draw for the Emperor, right?
Yeah.
Because you're almost entirely sure that this board of patrons will be immediately dealt with.
Yep. Loatheb comes down. Loatheb, really, really effective card against Patron Warriors. So much of their board clearing potential, if they don't have a weapon equipped, comes from things like Execute or slams, whirlwinds, that sort of thing. So if you're able to just lock them out of the game, not only is it a safety procedure to stop you being burst down. Ooh,
there's an Emperor, but
does he have time?
Really, yeah, you don't have time to play that.
Doesn't have time.
5, 10, 13, 17 damage already on board, and if you count on Rogue not having 2 damage from hand and from his weapon,
right?
That's usually a huge leap of fate.
He can't even really afford to play the Unstable Ghoul. Like Emperor Unstable Ghoul Armor Up is a potential play to live, but then he doesn't really have enough damage left in his hand to seal the game on the next turn. So he only has 1 Whirlwind effect to go along with the double Frothing and the Patron, and I don't think that would be enough even against this big board. So he's going to go for the clearing option here, hope that this Shredder drops something that he can compound his Patrons with. And
it actually drops.
Does. All right.
Okay.
So that gives him some clearing power here. Pretty nice for him. And he'll probably just take care of the Harrison, and then I would imagine push face with the second.
I don't think so. You have to. Okay. You have to preserve your life. You're at 19. That's not exactly a lot against a rogue.
Right, but I mean, I'm just thinking at some point you do also have to win this game, right? Are you gonna? Is your goal to like fatigue the rogue out? I don't think so. So
you have to drop the Emperor next turn if you want to win the game.
Right.
It's probably just no mission event to Emperor into a chance of killing him next turn because you have double Frothing Berserkers with 1 Wording effect, so you need that second Wording effect.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, so tidy up the board as much as you can and try and buy yourself the 2 turns that you need as a minimum to get the Emperor down and then potentially burst them down to turn after. That makes a lot of sense. So we're going to dagger up here, clear out the last Patron.
I was like thinking, do you really want to get 3 damage to the face?
I mean, this kind of just sets up lethal again for the next turn. So, you know, you saw Cipher have to make a desperate turn the turn before. So by putting him back in the same position where you're just threatening lethal again, you kind of make him have to make the desperate play again. Like, by pushing the face to the 5 face damage, it's not really about you taking the damage, it's about pushing the 5 to your opponent and making them not feel comfortable to play Emperor.
Okay, so Cipher saw 2 Eviscerates already played.
Yes.
And in this situation, I wouldn't blame him for playing the Death Spite and Emperor, but not Gnomish Inventor with Death Spite.
Well, this sets up lethal anyway, right? Without the Emperor. And he actually gets to armor alongside it, so...
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Okay, never mind then.
We do see that the Sabotage is just going to come down and absolutely crush this, unless Firebat just has lethal. Drake first can potentially pick up lethal. Tinker's Shot, Soil Oil will definitely be lethal here.
Blade Flurry is
Blade
not
Flurry lethal?
That's 2 damage, wait. That's 2 damage,
Yeah,
that's
2.
7, 10... nope, it's not.
No?
No, it's not.
No, definitely not. So yeah, Sabotage will come down here.
But now you have no options of leveling your opponent as Firebat. Sorry, as Cipher. And that's why I didn't like about not playing the Emperor. Because if he top decks like a Bull or a second Whirlwind, that would have been GG.
Yeah, if he top decked the second Whirlwind here, he wouldn't have enough mana to play it. But would Inner Rage have been lethal if he top decked?
No, I mean if he played the Emperor less.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just considering like the situation he's put himself in here. So
okay.
This removes Whirlwind as an out, but would Inner Rage still be enough? So
Inner Rage would have been 3, 6, and 1. That's 12.
Yeah, Inner Rage would be enough.
16. Yeah, that's exactly 19 with Inner Rage. Interesting.
It's pretty close, right? Yeah, the decision between Emperor and Death Spiting Face last turn was definitely pretty close. Because I think if he Emperored last turn, he's actually just not setting up lethal, right? Because he only has 1 Whirlwind effect to follow it up. And that's not going to be enough. If his Emperor gets cleared, the board size probably gets reduced in clearing his Emperor. So he actually just wouldn't have lethal. So I think,
oh, 1 turn, 1 card play.
1 card late. All right, there's an execute.
That is the execute, yeah. But you're really looking weak to anything that the rogue plays.
Yeah, you are. So to take down the Drake,
wait, that's actually
he's asking for 1 damage from his opponent. So yeah, dagger up, hit face is going to be enough. So no way for Cipher to survive that turn. So that is GG. Firebat levels up the series 2-2.
It looked kind of okay for Cipher at some point, but the amount of pressure that Firebat was putting on every single turn was just too much for Cipher to deal with without the executes.
Yeah.
He didn't draw those executes at all during the game until the last turn, when it didn't matter at all.
Yeah. And like I said, both Deathspite just got dealt with so efficiently. One with the Harrison, one with the Sabotage. So, you know, any long-term lethal plans that you put together with the Deathspite just got immediately counteracted by those 2 weapon destruction cards. And more than that, the 2 charges of Deathspites are also 2 removals in your deck. So by getting rid of those, that let Firebat's minions stick to the board for longer.
Yep.
So exactly. Yeah, that's just where all the pressure came from, and why Cipher didn't have the time to carry out his game plan that game.
Especially that he's only playing 3 weapons, and Firebat was sporting 2 removals. So that was an interesting way of things that developing here. But in this situation, you just want to get Cipher wants to get those patrons on turn 5 with a, let's say, Inner Rage and an Unstable Goal on board.
Yeah, I absolutely like playing out the Unstable Goal here. Generally, you just want to play out your minions here. I think you absolutely shield block on turn 3, because like you said, you're just digging super hard for the Inner Rage here, which is just outright game winning on turn 5. If you're able to get the full 4 patron generation combo on turn 5, Druid very rarely comes back from that sort of situation. But
that's a good draw, I would say.
It certainly is. I mean, it wasn't bad beforehand, right? He just had to innovate, coin, Ancient of Law. But, you know. Emperor kind of makes it a bit more tasty. The Deathspite will come down and answer this nice and cleanly.
But the problem is Druid is then on curve on turn 5 and on turn 6.
Right.
Because you can follow it up with Ancient of Law and Ancient of War.
How do you feel about not using the Death Bite this turn and just slam executing that? Because then you give your unstable ghoul every chance of living the 2 turns it needs to, because you're missing the extra card to activate the full patron combo here.
I wouldn't blame him for that. I mean, even better is just slam for your War Axe.
Oh, wait, okay, I'm dumb. I missed the Fiery War Axe. Yeah.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, this is significantly better. All right. Well, I got halfway there, right? Like, protecting the unstable ghoul is really important here because you're missing that extra whirlwind for the Grim Patron. But yeah, Fiery War Axe obviously way better than using up one of your most important cards in the deck, which is the Execute. So, unfortunately, it's gonna get denied here. He's gonna
follow up by a low tap.
Yeah, Firebat knows what the deal is. He can't leave that unstable ghoul on the board going into turn 5, because if there was a patron in a rage, you know, if the 2 pieces that Cipher had were patron and in a rage and he was missing the Death Bite, allowing that ghoul to live, it's gonna spell death for the druid. So
I really like that he replaces the weapon before the attack, so we can set up the durability to 1. It's really nice.
Yeah. You know, he gets kind of double benefits out of that. Firstly, the Whirlwind effect now just takes care of the lower Theb next turn, and secondly, if he does draw either Whirlwind or either Inner Rage, that's 4 draws out of his deck, he now has the immediate setup for the patron turn.
Inner Rage to the rescue. Nope. Imagine Inner Rage right now. I'll be so insane.
I think you still do it though, right? Make 2 patrons and execute the 5/10.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. You have 1 patron already in hand. 2 patrons already in hand, so you have to go through the risky route here. I mean, on the with the risky play, you saw 1 Wrath, so not exactly counting on your opponent having a second one.
And this is the kind of situation where shield block is a nice utility to have in your deck, because if he's going to probably want to draw into shield blocks at some point this game. If he can start to compound this this patron board to his advantage, that's going to secure the board for him. So the only thing he's worried about is dying over the top to something like Force of Nature Savage Roar. So that's where shield block really comes into its own as like a late game ceiling card when, you know, patron does patron things and you get an incredibly dominant board, but sometimes certain decks are just able to fireball you in the face and laugh at your board of 7 patrons. And yeah, Druid is very similar and like, oh, well, good job, you made 7 patrons, that was cute. I'm just gonna fireball you. So, what? I'm just gonna Force of Nature you. So, yeah, shield block is a crucial card for putting a stop to that sort of thing.
Now Cipher is an awkward spot when he needs to draw any kind of damage sources which will deal only 1 damage, and that's actually happened because the Whirlwind. I think. What do you think about using? Because there are 2 options here. One is second patron and just Whirlwind, and not leaving the Engine of Law on board, but that kind of leaves you also at not enough life maybe to sustain the situation, right?
Yeah.
Or you just go for Depth Spite and Whirlwind and clear the board, because it means you will take 5 damage.
I have a third play, which I think is the one that Cipher's going for, which is just Frothing Berserker, Death Bite, and Trade. And then next turn, you have the big setup with the patrons all over again. Because next turn, you can just make 4 brand new patrons.
Okay.
You develop a 4/4 on the board immediately, which demands an answer because it's threatening to just kill your opponent since you have a Whirlwind effect available. So yeah, never mind. I really like this play that Cipher went for. Harrison Jones is going to be a pretty big punish here, because now the Whirlwind effect goes off, it hits 2 minions, and hello, this is a big game hunter.
Wow. Okay, so this sums it up.
Yeah. And yeah, you see Cipher just kind of rock back in his chair there. That was just an absolutely devastating top deck.
But there's 2 Whirlwinds to follow it up, so you can clear the Big Game Hunter and produce 4 patrons, but the problem is those patrons will be cleared up.
Well, the problem is he's dead, more importantly. So, Force of Nature, as we talked about.
From his perspective, he's of course not, but...
yeah, but, you know, you're going into turn 9. You're even dead to swipe at this point, so I don't think you have too many hopes of remaining alive in this situation. You're dead to Savage Roar, you're dead to Force of Nature, you're dead to Swipe, you're dead to Druid of the Claw. Charge. Like, what cards are in your opponent's hand that don't kill you in that situation?
Exactly. And Firebat takes the game. So he didn't exactly stick to his plan because he didn't defeat the Handlock 3 times, but it happened within the most important matchup with the Shaman.
Yes.
Because that was the deck that was practically the weakest link in his lineup, but it was really lucky for him to get the first matchup with the Shaman against the Handlock, so the best matchup to begin with. And congratulations, Firebat, he's the second semi-finalist. And he will be playing against Orange. So a Team Archon semi-finals will be happening. Next game that we'll have to play is the last quarterfinal between Kaldi and Stan Sivka, which will mean that one of those players will be meeting RDU from Nihilum in the semi-finals. And before that, we'll be jumping to a short commercial break for a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.